Hello and welcome. I'm Tom Sinclair, and I'm here with another exciting episode. Exciting episode. That's supposed to cue something. Oh well. With another exciting episode of Streaming Idiots. Glad you're here with us today. Really appreciate all the folks showing up live. You know, we said if you're watching live, we had said that we had virtual refreshments and that we were checking IDs. And I guess everybody thought, hey, this is pretty great. Let's show up and get some. Well, you know, we ran out early. That's the excuse I use. But so glad to have folks watching live today and appreciate you guys taking the time out. And ladies, too. Jill, want to thank you for showing up and keeping these guys honest. If you're watching us on YouTube, we're glad to have you here, too. Sorry the refreshments didn't keep and we couldn't serve those on YouTube, but you'll have to drop in sometime when we're live, and of course don't forget to subscribe so at least you will have the ability to see us after the fact. Kind of an interesting show today. It's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And last week's show was a rant. Pretty much, I don't rant but once a year, so I guess I was getting mine out of the way early. But it was pretty much a rant against Windows 10. Because I'd had a terrible experience with Windows 10 on my production PC. I'd upgraded from Windows 7 to Windows 10. And anyway, you can go back and watch that YouTube video. It was the one from February, whatever last Wednesday was. Sorry. I'll post that in the show notes, a link to the YouTube video so you can find it. But since then, I've noticed that Microsoft has made a fairly major update. If you're using version 15.11 or build 15.11, then there are two updates that you're looking for. There's the KB 314.07.43. Yeah, there's a little bit of sarcasm in that voice, isn't there? And the KB 213.99.07. And they're supposed to cure what ails you. Yeah. Well, you know, here's the story for me. I can touch the stove one time and get burned and learn my lesson. I don't have to touch that stove twice. Now, some things I continue to make mistakes on. There's no doubt about that. But I'm not touching that stove but one time. I have got to be absolutely, positively, 100,000% convinced that Windows 10 is safe for me to use and will not rocket me to the moon in terms of my CPU usage. I mean, I had this nonsense, this application running in the background called System and Compressed Memory that was eating up 30% of my CPU. And, you know, you can't do that. Not in this. Now, was it doing it with everything? No, it was doing it with a heavy-duty preset list in vMix where I had, you know, the same preset I'm running today, where I've got 5 cameras, 5 HD cameras going. They're all around the studio here, and several different audio sources, video sources, overlays. I mean, all sorts of stuff, screen captures that use a lot of CPU. You know, we're cruising along at 75% right now, which it's a little high for my tastes. I'm going to have to go back to work and see what I can do. But, you know, prior to last week, it was 100%. It was 100% CPU usage, which meant some things had to wait their turn. They had to wait in line to get done. And when you're streaming, you don't want anything waiting in line to get done. You want to stream and have, I think, at least 30% overhead left. If you're streaming and going above 70%, and I'm slightly above 70 right now, yeah, there's 72. If you're streaming above 70%, you're putting yourself in the area where you can expect or where you shouldn't be surprised if you get some anomalies. Several years ago, I had a different production PC, and I was streaming with Windows. That was back when I was doing the VidBlaster Guy show. And VidBlaster's a notorious CPU hog. And we were, you know, routinely getting up into the 80s. And that was with standard definition now. This was a 864 by 480 feed. Now, we were streaming it at 1500, because I thought that was going to be a decent looking stream. I guess I could have not streamed it so fast. But nevertheless, what I found out on that particular PC was that I was getting some pops, some clicks in the audio. And my good friend Martin in England had actually looked at some of my video and said, Tom, essentially you were dropping frames, but you were dropping frames in the sense that it was the audio was cutting out and then coming back in, and that created the pop. And they would just be random little pops. I mean, we teased about it on the show that I had a bowl of Rice Krispies here, and I was eating my Rice Krispies because it was snap, crackle, pop all over the place. So anyway, nevertheless, Windows 10 is not going to reside on my PC. If I have to upgrade later and it costs me to install Windows 10 on my PC because now it's bulletproof enough for me to be able to use it, I'm okay with that. I don't mind paying for something that has value. I don't expect to receive things of value for free. The Windows that I received before was free. And in my mind, it didn't have any value because I had to punt a day on reinstalling Windows 7 and all the other software because, of course, my reversion, my time to revert back to Windows 7 had expired. So, and folks are out there saying, they're okay on 8.1, but I think it was folks that upgraded from 7 and 8 and 8.1. If you Google system and compressed memory, you'll see about it. So, I'm not convinced. I'm still watching, but I'm not convinced. So we'll see. We'll see. So Windows 7, Windows 7's an old friend. Windows 7 is what Windows 8 should have been, except better. Okay, enough of that. Let's go to, let's switch some gears here, and we're going to talk about a recent computer build that I had. So let's see if we can't. Can we do this? Can we do this? Is this going to work? Let's try it. Okay, there we go. That's it. This is the ASRock Z97 Extreme4 LGA 1150. And actually, let's switch to that shot because it looks better. And we'll talk about the difference between those two shots in just a minute. But this little guy drove me nuts. Now, normally, when I build a PC, I'm using either the ASUS motherboard or the ASRock motherboard. And I've got a particular motherboard that I like, and that particular motherboard just wasn't available anywhere. It had sold out, and the new batch coming from China hadn't gotten in yet. And so I needed to build a PC, so I looked for something in the same brand that had all the same features, except maybe, I think the one I was using had an extra card that came with it that did 3.1, USB 3.1. And this particular client didn't need USB 3.1 on their build, so I said, okay, well, we'll take this other board, this one right here, because it doesn't have 3.1, but everything else is the same. Put that in the category with Windows 10. So I'm installing, everything's going great. Generally I'll do a build first, not in the case, and I want to make sure everything's compatible and working fine, and then I'll put it in the case and test it again. And I've had things fail at different levels for different reasons, so we want to make sure that our clients are getting the very best they can get. And so for some reason this time I didn't test the Magewell card until I had everything assembled in the case. And I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to pop the Magewell card in. So I pop it in, I plug everything in, and I turn it back on, and nothing. It doesn't budge. And I'm thinking, okay, what did I do wrong? And I looked around and I pulled the card out, put it back in, turned it back on. And this time it booted. Well, it didn't boot, but it started. But on the card, let me switch over to the card and see if you can see it anywhere. Well, you really can't see it. If you look really closely in the right side of the card, right above the X in the Extreme on the box, you'll see an 88. And that is where you can see the troubleshooting codes. And it would bomb out at I think it was a D6. Well, D6 says that you've got a PCIe error. And I'm thinking PCIe error. You know, what's going on? I know Magewell had some problems with some cards at some point, so I pulled the card out and looked at it. It looked good. It had the extra chip on it that it was supposed to have. And I had a different Magewell card here for a different build. And so I said, well, I'll try that one. Popped it in, same thing. Bombed out when it got to the D6. So I thought, okay, well, maybe I've got a bad graphics card. So I pulled the graphics card out, and this particular motherboard, we'll switch back to it for a second. You can see on the far left corner has got its own video. So I said, okay, I'll just take the onboard video and boot it up without the video card. And sure enough, it booted right up, no problem. The Magewell card installed the drivers, no problem. And I said, oh, this is not right. I must have a bad video card. So I had an old video card here that was not the right spec for that build, but I thought, well, you know, let's just test. So I put the other card in, wouldn't boot. Wasn't the video card. It was the combination of the video card and the Magewell card. Because when I pulled the Magewell card out, it would boot. When I put the video card out, it would boot. But put them both in together, wouldn't boot, wouldn't go. And, you know, it was crazy. And so, you know, I had to use a different motherboard. And I was able to actually to get the one that I wanted all along. Brought in a little, with a little trepidation at that point, because I thought, oh, you know, here we've got the same brand, the same line. It's got everything else the same, except it's got this one added feature for this USB 3.1 card. You know, hopefully something hasn't happened on the line somewhere when they were making this that has created this incompatibility. And, you know, I should have tried it with a Intensity Pro card. That would have been a good thing to do. Anyway, nevertheless, I returned the board, got another board in, was the board I wanted. You know, I'm really nervous. I'm assembling everything, again, outside the case on the test bench, and plugged everything in exactly the way it was on the other one. I mean, the layout of the PCIe bus is exactly the same. And with the previous build, Martin says, sounds like not enough lanes, and I'd actually swapped cards and put the video card in different slots, and it actually booted one time. It booted one time. I was able to pull up vMix and see that the cameras were all there, and I thought, this is great, this is great. So I shut it down. Why did I shut it down? I shut it down because I wanted to do something. I don't know, maybe I wanted to plug in a hard drive and oh no, I had installed some software. That's what it was. I installed some software and I needed to reboot. And when I rebooted, it wouldn't work again. And it was just a bad card. That's what Rich says. It was a bad card. So I took almost what appeared to me to be the exact same motherboard and configured it exactly the way I had before. And it booted the first time. Never hiccuped. So it's on the way to a client right now, somewhere in the Midwest. It's bouncing around the back of a UPS truck, no doubt. So yeah, Rich says bad board. Blame it on Murphy. That's right. It was definitely Murphy's Law. But that's the kind of thing that you can bump into when you're building a PC, either in my case, building it for a client, or in your case, perhaps building one for yourself. So if you get in a jam and you think I can help, not that I've got any kind of great experience, well, actually I take that back. I've got a lot of great experience. But I don't always like to toot my own horn. But if you think I can help, I'd be happy to. So just shoot me an email, tom@easternshorebroadcasting.com, and maybe I can work you through it, or You know, you can send me all your stuff and I'll build it for you, something like that. Al says he had a similar issue. Oh, he has a similar issue with his two Osprey cards not playing nicely. Ooh, that's no good. Yeah, I even got to the point where I thought, well, maybe I need to change the dial on the Magewell card to indicate that it's a different card, but it didn't matter. There is, oh, let's take a little sidestep here because this was kind of interesting. This, this is the first graphic I showed you, and you notice the black borders on both sides. And I guess I had the opportunity that I could have taken that and I could have just taken it from normal to widescreen, but that looks kind of hokey. I think that looks hokey. So let's put it back. And what I did was let's see if we can do this real quick. I basically said, well, let me get, here's the shot that I put. I took this, a white screen. Ah, yeah. And in vMix, I just told vMix, okay, on top of the white screen, using the multi-view setting, I want you just to, oops, wrong one. But there's one of the things I'm about to talk about. I want you just to put that one with the black borders right there, so you can see the only difference is the border. It just makes it look nicer, I thought. And I had the same issue, obviously, with the laptop that I was just showing you. The other product that that I bumped into today is from a company called Extron. And this is the Extron SMP 351. And it says it's a 1U rack mount. That looks like a 2U to me, but you know, appearances could be deceiving. And it's $4,790. Oh, you know what that is? That's probably the front and the back in one picture. That's what it is. $4,790. And somebody in the chat room said they're using that in their school. And it's being pitched to schools, and it works with all the Extron accessories. That's what all those little connectors on the back, I guess, are for, different parts of Extron accessories. But when you look in the details of the specs, for $4,790, they're going to allow you to connect up 2 HDMI cameras and an SDI camera. And it's going to record, and it's going to stream. And it's going to connect to 8 other, that I could tell, 8 other Extron products. And I'm thinking, wow, that is a proprietary situation where you've gotten locked into a particular manufacturer and you can't get out. And the only way to get out is with, well, you can't get out. You get this other piece. You remember we were talking about the Roland switcher in the pre-show. You know, here Extron is trying to get into the streaming business. And they're pitching it to their existing client base, which are schools and colleges, and it's, you know, maybe it's the right tool for that job, but boy, it doesn't look like it would be very versatile at all. And in fact, a PC from Best Buy running vMix would knock that sucker to pieces. Well, now you would have to add a couple capture cards to it. So maybe. But even the custom PCs that I build to do 4 ports of high definition input, whether it's SDI or HDMI, even if I did 2 of each, 2 HDMI and 2 SDI, it wouldn't be $4,790. Holy cow. Now, maybe big corporations do things differently, and they've got all sorts of support, and they got all sorts of parts that they got to keep on hand, because everything's proprietary. When you're dealing with things that are generic in a sense, then with my motherboard story, a motherboard's a motherboard. You know, this one doesn't work. You get another one that's close to it, and it'll do the trick. And so you're not jammed up with a. Have you ever had one of those screws that has, instead of having a Phillips or a slotted, it's got a Torx, that 8-sided star pattern? I think it's Torx, Torks or something like that. Anyway, and it's great for really making sure that screw is screwed in, almost like it's a bolt. But if you don't have the Torx tool, you're not getting it apart. Well, a proprietary system is like that. If something breaks, you got to get that exact proprietary part for it. So anyway, yes, somebody says you shouldn't see it as a separate system because it does all sorts of other stuff and takes care of lights and things like that. Well, I've got a light switch that'll take care of lights for less than $4,700. So I'm beating up the product. I'm sorry. Let's transition to a different one here. We'll get the jaws of death. There we go. This is the side of a ASRock. Excuse me. Let me rephrase that. This is the side of an ASUS ROG Republic of Gamers laptop. It's a GL752. It's hot. It's got the i7 6700 processor in it, and it's got Thunderbolt 3. Yes, I'm being corrected in chat. It is ASUS. It has got Thunderbolt 3. Now, I wish I had a little pointer here so I could point to it. But if you start on the left side and you start counting holes in the side, the first three are obviously audio. The fourth one is, that's right, it's USB 3.1. But on this PC, it's Thunderbolt 3. Now, if you keep counting and you go to the right of that, you've got a USB and another USB, and then whoops, there's a Thunderbolt port. But no, that's not a Thunderbolt port. That's a mini display port. And then next to that, of course, is HDMI, and next to that is Ethernet. And then all the way up in the corner, you can barely see it, is power in. But I was dealing with a client, and he bought one of these, and he also bought one of our Bolt 4. That's the Thunderbolt card that is 4 ports, either HDMI or SDI, and it'll go right into the laptop, and suddenly you've got the equivalent of having 4 ports on a PC. And he and I were busting our chops trying to get that rascal to run, and he didn't realize that what he had gotten was this laptop. And what he didn't, and what I thought he had was this laptop. This is, yeah, the green screen's going to go nuts here with the reflection. But this is the ASUS ROG GL751. And right on the side of it are 3 audio ports, a couple USB 3.0 ports, a Thunderbolt port, HDMI, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, yeah, plug it into that one. Plug it into that one right there. And he did, because I sent him a cord, and the cord fit. Scott's got a Bolt 4. Thank you, Scott. And he didn't have any problems with his. But bless his heart, we've had a devil of a time getting him hooked up. So here's the rest of the story, because if you're in a similar situation, this is going to be good for you to know. So this USB 3.1 port on this ASUS ROG GL752, the fourth one from the left there is an adapter that adapts that to Thunderbolt 3. And the Thunderbolt 3, of course, looks just like the Thunderbolt port, that is the mini display port there, between the USB and the HDMI ports. And so that was great. He ordered one, except his was the other way. It was for a mini display port that would send output to some monitors. So that didn't work. Then we realized, aha, there is a input converter that takes Thunderbolt and converts it to USB 3.1 to plug into the PC as an input. Actually, would probably work bidirectionally. So that's great. StarTech makes it. Amazon sells it. BH Photo sells it. But it's not available until the end of March. It's just coming out. I mean, you can't really say it's on the market until you can buy it. but it's been announced. It's there. So here he's sitting with a brand new laptop, a brand new Bolt 4, and they're both beautiful. I built the Bolt 4, I know. And I've got the laptop. And Scott says he's using the Sager, which is higher end, but he bought his as a manufacturer's refurb for pennies on the dollar. That was a smart buy. And it's not going to work, and we've got to wait till March 20th. And he and I were talking the other day about a totally different subject, and talking about praying for patience. And don't ever, if you're a praying person, don't ever pray for patience. Because when you pray for patience, bad stuff happens. Because patience is like a muscle. And the only way to make that muscle bigger is to exercise it. So if you pray for patience, bad stuff happens in order to give you time to, or the ability to go lift some weights with that patience muscle. So don't pray for patience. That's my best praying advice you're going to get from me today. So anyway, that was that's the new Thunderbolt port. Don't be caught by this one. It's a 3.1 looking USB port, and I think it does 3.1 USB also, but it can be converted to Thunderbolt 3, and so we're in good shape. And anybody that needs to leave early to catch the bus, we understand. Go right ahead. Go right ahead. And somebody's saying that the ProStar laptops have them too. Yep. So that was that story. Looking through my notes here and thinking that I've blown through all my stories pretty quickly. An update on the different projects that we've got in process. The one that golly, I announced this one. This is probably a project that's been on the boards for a year. We have taken an old portable PC and have gutted it and are going to rebuild it as a streaming PC. That project got delayed because we had to modify the case and had to get a Dremel tool to do that. And so now that I've got the Dremel, it was a Christmas present. I can go in and make some modifications to the case so that the motherboard will fit. This will be an interesting project because this is going to be a welding and cutting will be involved. And we were also working hard on our prototype for it's kind of a clone of the NewTek Talk Show VT100 that uses the Skype TX system. That's that professional Skype that only a couple of companies are allowed or have been able to license. And so we're probably looking at a WebRTC implementation of that. But hey, it's going to be half the price. So and I think we're still working on it now, but it looks like we'll be able to take two Skype. I mean the NewTek Talk Show is limited to one caller per unit. With the manufacturer's suggested price of $39.95 for one unit. And we're thinking that we can get two callers in 720p for $19.95 and also have some management software that will allow you to manage the callers. So we're working on that part of it now. That's looking real promising. And if you know anything about WebRTC and you want to chime in or ask some questions, holler back to me, Tom at easternshorebroadcasting.com. The other product that we're actually going to be beta testing it really soon is the vMix Talk Show PC. And I guess we can't call it the vMix Talk Show PC because vMix manufactures their own lines of PCs. But it'll be a Talk Show PC, and we probably can't use Talk Show because NewTek has trademarked that name. But it'll be a PC for folks that do talk shows like me and maybe you that will be powered by vMix and also powered by an audio switcher that we did a show on this a while back, and we'll probably do a demo next week or the week after. An audio switcher that listens to the microphone, and whichever microphone is active, it will switch to a camera that's been assigned to that microphone. So for folks that are doing their own talk shows and don't want to have to worry about switching themselves, which I can sure understand, if you're the host, you got 1,000 things to think about, having it be able to do auto switching is really pretty cool. And there are different safeguards that are built into the software where it's not going to switch back and forth real quickly. It's got a built-in delay, so if somebody talks over you, it doesn't get that switched over. If two people start talking at the same time, it switches to a predetermined kind of common shot, which might be sort of the group shot or something like that. So we've still got some more testing and a little tweaking to do, but that'll be part of a larger package. If you're interested, we've actually got the software, the switching software, on our website, easternshorebroadcasting.com. It's $150 per license, and it's really pretty cool stuff. The other project, it's our camera-mounted monitor, and that one came to a screeching halt. We got the monitor and got the backplate that carries the Canon camera battery. This is for a Canon BP511A. And now I'm realizing I've either got to drill some holes in the back of this or super glue it, epoxy it, or maybe use, I'm really leaning towards to Velcro, double-side Velcro tape. But I want to go ahead and mount that on there and then be able to plug the battery right into it and power it, but I don't have a port for the power. The port's at the other end of this DIN, this 6-pin kind of DIN connector right here. So we'll have to work out some of the logistics on this. This monitor was designed for a backup system in a car, so it's got a long cable, and you know what a cheapskate I am. I bought this based on the price. I didn't buy it based on the length of the cable, so I'm going to have to figure out how to shorten the cable, or maybe even craft this so that it's got a place to plug the power into the side. We'll see. We'll work that out. That's going to be fun. There are lots of challenges with these projects, and some of them, when you get, you know how projects are, when you get done, you say, yeah, it would have been a lot cheaper just to buy it. Yes, Anderson's saying in the chat room, use Velcro. And Al's suggesting hot glue. That's a good idea. Al hadn't thought about that. I would like it to be something that would be removable. And, you know, there's nothing like drilling a hole in it. Yep. So that's, excuse me, that's the update on the projects. So, Scott's asking any updates on the vMix PTZ for Panasonics. The vMix, and what he's referring to is a new feature in vMix 17 that will allow vMix to control a PTZ from within the software. And they demoed that on the February Fun Show. The vMix guys do a show every month, and they did one in early February, and they demoed controlling the PTZ cam from within vMix. And it was really cool because basically what you would do is you would use your camera preset, and that would be the input. So when you clicked on that input, it would set the camera would move to whatever the preset was. So you'd have a second input that had a different preset, and when you clicked on that input, the camera would move. And it would move, I think it would move when you sent it to preview, so that the camera had already finished its movement by the time you went to program. So I think that's the kind of the overview on it. But go to the vMix YouTube page and it'll be there. I think it's the last video they did. It's really good. And I think we demoed a little bit of that on a show 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. And so that's for, I know it's for the PTZ Optic Cam. It's for some panties, and I think they're working on getting some Sonys in there too. So, and I haven't heard on what the physical connection is. I'm assuming it's IP. It would be Ethernet, but not sure. So we'll have some more information on that. You know, it would be nice if you're using tally lights now that are physically controlled with vMix, if you could use somehow use the same wiring so that you don't have to run an extra wire. Anyway, We will know more. We will know more. vMix 17 will be released officially at NAB in mid-April. There'll be a beta that should be released, we're thinking maybe the end of this month, but most certainly the early April. I think Martin Sinclair, the developer of vMix, had said that he didn't think it was going to get out, but maybe just a couple of weeks before NAB. So we just got to keep waiting, and hope that that maybe Santa Claus comes early with a beta. Wouldn't that be fun? We have taken more than our allotted half an hour. I would say we'll give you back that time next week, but next week we're liable to take the same amount of time too. I will give you one last tip. I'm looking across at my camera, and let's see if I've got a picture that I can show you. Yeah, there it is, right there, right there. And that's, I'm going to give you all my secrets. These are Tom's secret sauce here. That is a Canon HFR 200 off of eBay for cheap. And it's attached to a telescoping, one of those arms, one of those telescoping arms. And the problem with this setup is every time I do something here on the desktop, the camera shakes. But the beauty of this particular camera is it has image stabilization in it, which I thought I would never use in a studio camera. But here in this application, I mean, the camera's shaking right now, but you notice the picture's not. It might be moving ever so slightly, but it's not shaking like the camera's shaking. So anyway, just a little tip. If you've got that situation and you've got one of these cameras, turn on the image stabilization. Yep. Or find a camera that does. Well, guys and gal, it's been a treat to be with you today. Hang around. We've got a little post show here, and I'm sure there's going to be a very good discussion. So we'll look forward to that. And for those of you watching on YouTube, if you made it this far, you know the deal. You need to subscribe. You're hooked. And for folks that watched live, I really appreciate it. We'll be back next week with more exciting. Oh, come on. We'll be back next week. We'll have to come up with something good to talk about. Between now and then, have a great week. Talk soon.